Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. I have long warned this committee about the consequences for American consumers and our economy of large-scale exports of American natural gas. The Department of Energy, our Department of Energy, has said that exporting less than half of the volumes of LNG already approved could increase U.S. prices for American consumers by up to 54%. That could translate into a de facto energy tax on American consumers, businesses, and our economy of up to $62 billion a year, a regressive energy tax on American consumers if we export LNG in the amounts that are only half of the level already approved. And we can't even be sure that the exports are going to go to the Ukraine because we believe in capitalism. We're not a state-run oil industry. We can't control where this oil or natural gas is going to go. We are a system that allows the Rex Tillerson to have his hand on the tiller at ExxonMobil to direct where oil and natural gas goes, and that's towards the highest price. Now, right now, and I'm just going to focus on oil, consumers are saving at the pump because U.S. oil prices are lower than the international benchmark price. A recent Barclays report found that U.S. consumers saved $11 billion at the pump last year because of lower U.S. oil prices and will potentially save up to $10 billion this year. We change policies, energy tax on ordinary Americans, which, from my perspective, is regressive and it's wrong. We are having a refining and shipbuilding boom in our country because of the increased production coupled with the export ban. There are more than 800,000 barrels per day of refining capacity additions or upgrades that are in the works in the United States, according to industry analysts. Many of those refinery upgrades involve investments of $300 million or more. The private sector in the United States refining sector is responding to this crude oil. They are building and expanding the refining capacity with American jobs here, right now. And that's why the United States steelworkers and the AFL-CIO are opposed to lifting the oil ban because we otherwise will not create those jobs. Now, U.S. shipbuilders have orders to expand our domestic tanker fleet capable of transporting crude oil by nearly 40%. Each tanker can represent an investment of $100 to $200 million. 5 years ago, there were 0 orders for new domestic oil tankers. One company, Aker ASA in Pennsylvania, right now has nearly a $1 billion 4-year order backlog and has tripled employment over the last 3 years. American companies responding here by creating new jobs in already existing industries that otherwise were going away under this export policy. Shipbuilding, refining, gone overseas. That's this plan. That's the heart of it. When we still import nearly 5 million barrels of oil every day, that would harm our national security. We are neck and neck with China as the world's largest importer. The Department of Energy forecasts that we will continue to import millions of barrels of oil a day for the foreseeable future. When we are still importing 5 million barrels of oil a day, every barrel that we would send to one of our allies means an additional barrel that we are going to have to import from a potentially unstable region of hostile countries. And mind you, we're still exporting young men and women in uniform over to the Middle East to protect those ships bringing in oil from unstable parts of the country. How can we export our oil when we're still importing 5 million barrels a day? That is just wrong. And it's wrong, especially to those young men and women in uniform. We should be creating energy independence here in the United States of America. Oil and natural gas are not like any other commodity. They're not like widgets. They're not like iPhones. This is the central commodity. You look at ISIS. You look at the Shiites, the Sunnis. Where are they going? For the oil-producing regions, whether it be Yemen, whether it be Iraq, whether it be Syria. They're going for the oil. They're not going for the widgets. They're not going for the iPhones. Oil, gas, national security. That's what it's all about. It's not like any other product. It is the heart and soul of our national security. So let me ask you this, Commander Lippold. We don't have state-owned oil companies in the United States. We cannot direct ExxonMobil to send oil exports to specific countries. They will be making decisions about where any crude oil exports would go based on the market and what's best for their bottom line, not on what might be best for U.S. foreign policy. Is that not correct?
That is correct. If we start to export oil, we have no control on where it will go, and it is not a free market that is out there. When you look at the vast majority of oil controlled by either national oil companies or cartels like OPEC, we aren't entering into a free market system by any stretch.
Commander Lippold, according to the Department of Energy, lifting the crude export ban would reduce the investment in the U.S. refining sector by nearly $9 billion over the next decade and could mean 1.6 million barrels a day less of domestic refining capacity in our own country. Refineries on the East Coast and other parts of our country could potentially close. Isn't that a national security concern if we don't have sufficient domestic refining capacity and are reliant on foreign nations to provide us with critical fuels like gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel?
Yes, Senator, it is.
Let me ask you this. According to Mr. Webster at IHS, the #1 destination for export of U.S. light sweet crude oil would be China. Is that correct, that the bulk of the U.S. exports would likely go to China and Asia, Mr. Webster?
Thank you for your question, Senator. Yes, actually, you would see a great deal of volumes go to China, as well as some of the technology that would be there as well. And I would also agree with you that if you don't change the export ban, you absolutely will continue to have significant refinery investments of about $3 billion. However, on the production side, you're missing out on around $756 billion in investments.
So even as we're trying to pass a free trade bill so that we set the rules, not China, we dictate, not China, we're simultaneously talking about exporting the most precious of all raw products, and it will go to China because they will be the high bidder, sending back finished product for us to purchase in the United States of America. So I guess what I would say is, let's build the ships here. Let's build the refining capacity here. Let us drill here. Let us have consumers in America get the benefits here. Let us have the petrochemical industry here get the benefits. Let us have an economy that is robust using this incredible bonanza of energy that we now have and lowering our unemployment rate and showing what the real might of our country is. That is what I would do rather than exporting this oil and gas so that China and other countries then take our most precious resource and undermine our ability to be able to protect our own citizens. That stops in its tracks if we lift this export ban. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much.